What up, what up? It's your girl Dope Its Whit here, bringing you some dope black history. Today we're going to talk about Chicago, the Chicago Defender, which was a black-owned newspaper, and we're going to talk about the Great Migration. Let's get into it. Doom, 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 doom. So, 1916 was the beginning of the Great Migration, when African Americans left the American South for Chicago with the promise of better jobs and less oppression. The Great Migration took place during and immediately after World War I. So pretty much during World War I, the United States clamped down the borders, right? They did not let European immigrants in, and no European immigrants coming in. That means that European immigrants were no longer able to work.
America, God bless you if it's good to you.
White people were all fighting the war and things of that sort, and so there became a gateway open for black people to get better jobs, especially in the South for those who were sharecroppers. If you don't know what sharecropping is, sharecroppers were very poor. They were not able to, afford a better life for themselves because, unfortunately, their tenants usually took advantage of their work, took advantage of their money, and took advantage of their land as well. So the North was very enticing to Black Americans. And the World War I opened up this gateway so that blacks could go up there. And so that's kind of how the Great Migration began to happen. The North was not a new place for African Americans to migrate to. Enslaved African Americans would flee north all the time for freedom way before the Great Migration. The Great Migration was significant in the fact that free African Americans were migrating at record numbers for opportunities, for working and for bettering their family. For the first time, you were able to see black families come together. Black, my thoughts so black, I'm black, my skin is so black. Chicago had an established African American community dating from before the Civil War. One of the main mediums black people were able to engage in to make their transition smoother and easier to Chicago, or rather to make their decision to get up to Chicago even quicker, was the Chicago Defender. The Chicago Defender was a black-owned newspaper founded in 1905 by Robert Abbott, one of Black America's first millionaires.
We are a family, like a giant tree, branching out toward the sky.
The Chicago Defender was, I don't even know. It was Black Twitter. It was Black Twitter in your hand, okay? At that time, back then, they did not have internet. They did not have these phones. They did not have, wide communications. These World Wide Web communications where we're connected to everybody everywhere. No, at that time, they literally had a newspaper founded by this man in Chicago, and they were, it was smuggled down south. Many people were killed if they were found with it. Many people were killed for trying to smuggle it down there. But nonetheless, the Chicago Defender was responsible for helping Black Americans get up to the North. Was responsible for letting them know about schools for blacks. They were responsible for letting them know about job openings, as well as different attractions that black people could enjoy. So when you think about a green book, if you think about and you know about the green book was something that Black Americans usually used as they traveled, and it usually let them know like places where they could eat, they could sleep as they traveled across the U.S. Basically, it gave you an idea of what it would be like to get out of the South and come up north and make a living for yourself, not giving your money back to the white man who was basically pimping you out for your land, using you, taking your money. Well, let me get on the rant there. Pennsylvania Railroad moved over 10,000 African Americans for employment. Wow. And that's not really a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing that Black Americans were employed, but at what stake was it, right? I'm pretty sure they were very underpaid. I always talk about reparations. When I talk about these type of stories, especially in the sense where you only hired us because your white counterparts was at war with you, or y'all was at a war or whatever, We deserve reparations because y'all always you still put us in the lowest, we still were in degrading positions, right? We took jobs that that normally poor whites took. But these poor whites were no longer allowed into the U.S., as well as they were the first to go out for war. So, okay, let's get the blacks, okay? We were not compensated well. We should be accounted for that in our reparations. Yes? $500,000 black Southerners between 1916 and 1919 migrated from the South to the North. Twice that many in the following decade. That's a lot of people. And that's what makes the Great Migration such a big thing. Yes, people were always flying north. People were always migrating. Black people have been migrating since the beginning of time. Because we weren't here. This is not our land. So we've always been trying to get everywhere well, because we're not trying to be wherever we at, because no, right? Okay. But when we're going to go all like families, like you see one family go on the block, 2, 3, 4 families are going the next week, like literally. Families are rounding up together. I wouldn't say carpooling, but literally, like most of it was by train.
Refer to me as a goddess. I'm tired of being modest. 100 degrees the hottest. If we're being honest,
The black Southerns were not playing. Okay, we're getting to the North by any means necessary, and the Northerns wanted the blacks as well for their jobs, because they did not have anybody to work their jobs, and so they sent labor agents. Labor agents were people who were paid by northern industrialists to recruit blacks to northern factories. They were there to make a trip more affordable and quick, although sometimes not placing migrants in the best job situation, and also, honestly, not the best traveling situation, because they didn't care for our well-being that much, right? They just needed the product to get here so you can do the work, you can be undercompensated and things of that sort. But nonetheless, history lesson, labor agents, that's who they were. Labor agents also were actually starting to be hanged when they came down south. They had to be very sneaky. They were not like down south. The Southerners did everything that they could to keep Southerners down south.
refer to me as a goddess. I'm tired of being modest. 100 degrees the hottest.
Have always kept the South alive. Know that. Black Southerners keep the South alive. Has been since history. Look in the history books, baby. The Civil War was fought because of the blacks in the South. They started getting mad when the blacks were leaving the South and going to the North, because while we were tilling their land, they wasn't doing no work, but they were reaping the benefits of it. We were not. So we said, what is this? If we can go up north and work and reap the benefits of it, why stay here? Why stay here working our ass off and we're not reaping the benefits of it? Ancestors chung deuces. Goodbye. We're going up north. We got to get some money. Hand it out to our family. Hand it down to my family. My family comes up north. Understand that a lot of Southern people moved up north, and a lot of people that you know from up north have roots from down south, and that's when you really get into it, and you get into the roots and the intricacies of things, the stories of things, it's crazy. And I'm just happy that I'm here and that you have decided to listen to me and tell you these stories. So yeah, many migrants moved back south, to be honest. I'm not going to say it was the easiest, the greatest, wonderfulest, most easiest trip, right? No. Meaning it was hard. It was hard. It's the North. Think about Chicago today. I know y'all seen the news. It was like the Lake Michigan was icy over and all of that. Think about back then, baby. It's cold up north. Think about a Southerner. I'm from down south. I'm from Houston, Texas, born and raised. Think about just moving up, going up north, Yes, I understand it's for a better living, but baby, the weather, I can't live in this. And I'm not saying that's the only reason why they did that. A lot of times because their family was still, they missed their family. And then sometimes the lifestyle just was not for them. And also, whites just wasn't not racist up north. Racist was north. racists were racist up north just as they were racist down south. So, will I want to be racist up north by myself, or do I want to be racist down south with my family? I don't know. You tell me. That's the juxtaposition those people had, right? This Great Migration was an active. It was an active type of migration. It was not a passive migration. And I pretty much spoke on that already. But it was very active, okay? We was getting to it. We had the newspapers going, baby. We had the connects going, baby. The black community, because they banned it. They banned the Chicago Defender to keep blacks from doing what they wanted to do. You feel me? We are citizens of the U.S. and they are blocking our newspaper. The only time they talked about us in their newspapers was to talk about, the crimes that were committed, or, these crazy ass stories about black people. Nothing ever good, nothing ever uplifting. We have the Chicago Defender to uplift us and to give us a better life, in a sense, to guide us to a better life. And what do? They try to shut it down all the way. But we're active, not passive, baby. That's okay. You want to ban it? Okay. One person got it in the community. Meet at my house at 7:00. I'm reading it out loud. I got you on the train times. Let's meet today, tomorrow, whenever. Let's go. We got to go to the north. Got to go, baby. And that they did. I want to say thank you again for watching me and listening to me. And to our ancestors, we love you. And oh, baby, every day is Black History for me. I hope it is for you. But baby, understand that Black History is in the making, and Black History Month is here.
My hair is kinky, my nose is wide, my skin is technicolor.